I'd like to call to order the Beaufort County Stormwater Management Utility Board, Wednesday, April 16th, 2 p.m. Tuesday, sorry. Usually it's a Wednesday. I apologize. First item on the agenda is the approval of today's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I make the motion we approve today's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Do you have any business?
I'm sorry?
That's item 6.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thought you were gonna have to amend the agenda to add the new business.
No, it's there.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the previous minutes for the meeting of February 14th. Do I have a motion to approve the previous minutes?
So moved.
I second.
Any discussion? No additions or deletions? The minutes are approved as submitted. Next on the item is introductions. We will start in the audience on the right-hand side.
My writer. I'll start.
Thank you.
I'm Katie Herrera, the Assistant Public Works Director for Beaufort County Public Works.
My name is Bob Williams, I do the All Joint Committee of Beaufort County.
Minka Williams, Midtown. Jennifer Taylor from Taylor Rental Homes.
Hi, Betty, Assistant Professor USCD and Director of Water Quality Lab.
Warren Carrington, and I'm with USB Water Quality Lab.
You can call him, superintendent, people come.
Mark Johnson, Projects Engineer, Beaufort County.
Thomas Bledsoe, City of Beaufort, Supervisor of Stormwater and Streets and Drainage.
Jacob Terry, Town Hilton Head Stormwater.
Kathy Coburn, All-Joy area.
Mark Hathaway, All Joy.
Laura Wilson, All-Joy.
Alec?
Bradley Harriet, Beaufort County Public Works Assistant Public Works Director Operations.
Brianna Klinkenberg, Beaufort County Public Works, Solid Waste and Recycling Business Manager.
Tammy Gold, Stormwater Business Manager. Paula Brown, Beaufort County Council District 8.
Brian Taylor, Stormwater Program Manager.
Daphne Butler, Environmental Assistant Public Works.
Jeff Netzinger, Stormwater Manager, Town of Hilton Head Island.
James Clark, represent unincorporated Port Royal.
I'm Mark Feinberg, and I represent unincorporated District 9 in Defusky Island.
Ed Warner, represent Hilton Head.
Dennis Ross at large.
Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry that we had to move the meeting due to some staffing difficulties. It normally is a Wednesday, the third Wednesday, but we've moved it to Tuesday so our presenters could be here. Next on the agenda is any public comment. Please come forward, state your name. There is a 3-minute limit.
My name is Bob Williams, I live in the All Joy community of Beaufort County. As some of you may know, about a month or so ago, the Beaufort County started cleaning out the ditches in All Joy. And I guess the key word here is started, because they've never finished that project. The main concern is at the end of the ditches that drain into the marsh were not cleaned, so the water still has nowhere to go. None of the pipes that go underneath driveways and through land have never been cleaned out, so they're plugged. So I'm not sure what their intention was, whether they had a plan or didn't have a plan, but whatever plan they have is not working. So we still have the same water problems, in some cases worse, because of the drainage can't get to the marsh. Some areas, like along Brunson Street, they talked about that 5 years ago and said they had a plan to fix it. They've never done anything to Brunson Street. So I don't know if Beaufort County just is incompetent that they, or don't know what to do, or they just don't want to do it. And it can't be about money, because they seem to find money other places, to do whatever they want to do. So I'm not sure what Beaufort County's thoughts are, but I just want to bring that to your attention, that the water's still not getting to where it needs to go. It's still overflowing in the roads, into septic leach fields, and then eventually into the river. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hello.
Permission to approach to give out.
You are?
Thank you.
Who are you?
Jennifer Taylor at Taylor's Rental Homes. Longtime Beaufort County, I'm born and raised. There you go. I have one for each member. So I'm gonna make it short and simple because everybody has a packet. Basically what this pertains to is that, we own property in Forestville subdivision off of Paris Island Gateway. And we also own the mobile home parks, Taylor's Mobile Home Estates off Paris Island Gateway. And the reason I'm here today is because since 2010, we've had a longstanding issue with the stormwater ditches that proceed from Clydesdale Circle behind Four Seasons Storage, then go through Pony Avenue, Quarter Horse Road, St. Paul's John Church Road, and then behind our mobile home park on 500 Paris Island Gateway. Since 2010, whenever Four Seasons built their storage unit, I was told that there is nothing that the stormwater system can do due to the backflow, because you cannot access the stormwater easement. After Four Seasons put their fence up, they put it along the stormwater easement, so stormwater is not able to access that. So for the past 14 years, the backflow, the answer was to, our properties were always dry. The answer in 2010 was to dig our properties out into 8-foot stormwater ditches, which I have no objection against. However, it's caused backflow. So instead of it flowing correctly through Four Seasons into the marsh, it's now backflowing opposite wise, which I understand there's nothing we can do about. However, the situation is that whenever it rains now, we have a problem since, and you can look at the notes, since March of 2023, whenever I found out that you have this wonderful Beaufort County Connect through Mr. Jonathan Spencer, I notified Mr. Jonathan Spencer. And if you look at the third request that I have, all these are still open, and it states since 2023, comment, this project has been added to our project list for channel cleanouts. However, none of these channels have ever been cleaned out. And most recently, whenever I downloaded onto the Beaufort County Connect app on April 15th of 2024, all of my requests was closed promptly, immediately, actually closed. And you can see that none of these requests merit being closed. However, I did send an email, and I do appreciate Miss Brewer being prompt and responding about the town of Port Royal. However, that's a separate concerned matter. This concerned matter, as far as the roads that I've stated, has been outgoing since 2010. I would just like to get this addressed because currently my property's at risk. I have at least 5 homes that are about 5 foot from being succumbed by water whenever it rains. Luckily, my granddaddy was smart enough to build the properties up. However, the water right now is going about 15 foot out from where the storm ditch is supposed to be. And it's about 3 foot high. As you can see in some of the pictures, one of my neighbors thought it was a joke to put a bathtub back there where it keeps flooding. And the water's literally all the way up to the bathtub. And you know how high a bathtub is. If there's any way that we could reopen any of these cases on BC Connect app, if any of the cases from last year, which are the same properties, that are still opened and not addressed but commented on, could be taken care of. I just want to be on public record because I feel like I've exhausted all resources to get this taken care of.
We will address your concerns. It is going to be brought up in new business. One of our members has been working on it since I saw your email this past week. I had no knowledge of it, but we will bring it to the attention of the stormwater manager and group.
Thank you, Chairman. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? There is another time for public comment at the end of the meeting. If there is no other public comment at this time, we will move on to our report section. And the first report is our utility update. Ms. Herrera.
All right. Once again, thank you for adjusting the schedule for Miss Taylor and I to be here today. So, as an update on the stormwater utility, we are still waiting for some of our municipal members to provide their financial records for the previous fiscal year. Thank you to the town for providing that promptly. We appreciate that. The other thing that we're currently working on is with our on-call consultant Wolpert is updating the stormwater utility fee for tax year 2025. So we've been having conversations back and forth. I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit with our municipal partners on what this effort is going to look like. As you know, the utility rate structure was adopted through tax year 2024, which will be implemented this upcoming September. But after that, we're going to be reevaluating how we're assessing the fee, if we can make things better for the community and ourselves. We like to be able to do that. This fee structure has been in place for 7 years, so we think it's a good time to take a look at how that is structured and reevaluate the findings that come from this effort. So again, this is something that we're working on with the municipal members. We are appreciative of their feedback in regards to this effort, and this will be for implementation for tax year 2025. So ultimately, we plan on bringing having several special presentations with the consultant to kind of walk through this with everyone. But for, we need to be able to vote on it before next budget cycle, just to give you a rough timeline. And then it's not on here, but we do have a special presentation for the next meeting. We are going to be hosting Courtney Kimmel. She's the research director for the Port Royal Sound Foundation. Jumping ahead a little bit again, we had a really great research symposium with about 30 to 40 10-pound brains in the room to discuss all kinds of things related to the health of the Port Royal Sound. And so it was a great discussion, and I want her to kind of bring a high-level overview of the purpose of that and kind of what was accomplished in the round one of that effort, because there are certainly a lot of people that care about the water quality here. And it's not just, your stormwater partners. So I thought that'd be a neat presentation from her.
Would you like to stay there and do the monitoring update?
Well, actually, since Dr. Petty's in the room, I figured I might turn it over to him.
I hope you're not being blindsided, Dr. Petty.
I am, but it's okay.
Get used to it, right?
I don't have a whole lot to report. We finished the first quarter with all of our sampling, beginning the second quarter, and we're still looking for a lab manager. We're reposting that position through the university. Hopefully have that filled by this summer.
Took the question I had, you answered it.
Oh, okay, great. Any other questions?
Any updates on what was that new monitoring station that you put out on Bluffton, Hilton Head, or?
278.
Yeah, on 278 out there, that automated monitoring station.
So,
Are there more of those that are coming?
So yes, that is part of the coordination effort with the Port Royal Sound Foundation and that research symposium. The plan, we had a lot of input from other partners who weren't necessarily quite as familiar with the purpose of our monitoring program and kind of the method to the madness, so to speak, on where we have those stations located. So we got some input and we provided, thoughtful commentary back on that. So that dialogue is still occurring on where to put in the next continuous monitoring station. the monitoring station right now that's on the 278 bridge is giving live data all the time. Right now, it's just sort of a back end for our staff to be able to see, but the plan is to switch it so that we're having that live on the website, kind of what that looks like. So it's getting things like tidal stage, salinity, dissolved oxygen, temperature. And then the really cool thing that this station doesn't have online yet, but will have hopefully soon, is a tryptophan sensor, which is an indicator for bacteria. And so my understanding is that we'll be the first in the state to have implemented a tryptophan sensor in a saltwater environment, which is really, really exciting stuff. So it is there. It is giving us data, not totally everything we want with that, not having that tryptophan sensor on board, but it's still really neat to see what runoff looks like. You can see it when you start seeing the salinity drop, the tide coming in from the wrong side of the sensor, so to speak. So
Is that gonna be on the stormwater page, what you're thinking there, or will that eventually, because I know there's a lot of information on the county's GIS page, well, there's tons of information you get on there, I just didn't know if that might be another place for it to be more centrally located. A lot of people can't even find the GIS page.
it would probably be hosted on GIS, but the link would be directly forward facing on the website, so you didn't have to like click on multiple layers to be able to see it. So
Is someone reviewing this data on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Is it providing reports? Is it collating reports?
So right now, there's nothing that's terribly statistically significant because it hasn't been on for a long amount of time. So there are some trends that we can extrapolate from the data that our consultant is doing, but right now,
Who's the consultant?
Wolpert.
Okay.
They're hosting it's Eagle.io is like the software that they use that speaks to the cloud via Verizon. So as this station is in place for a year, 2 years, 5 years, all that data is just going to become more and more statistically sound. So as of right now, the lab is not involved in that project, but they are aware of it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
I just wanted to come to the podium for the recording, that was all. Not to push you out of the way.
I'm used to that too. No, all I was gonna say, to not steal your point too, part of the Port Royal Sound Foundation meeting that Katie was talking about, some of the things we're talking about is getting a sensor network. So there's one there. We have one on the research side of my lab out on the Chichessie River. But the idea is to get more of these continuous monitoring, real-time data, sensors and platforms throughout the county.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Petty. SWIC report, please.
All right.
It's an acronym for the Stormwater Implementation Committee.
Yes. So we've had some very, very thoughtful discussions over the course of the last 2 months with our municipal partners. And I'd like to especially thank Mr. Nutzinger for providing great feedback to the team on the processes in which we're trying to implement. We've met several times over, like I said, the last couple months to talk about what the next management fee memo is going to look like. And we also went through the exercise of just presenting everyone with their draft proposals for 2024 CWI fees. We also discussed contract expirations. In a perfect world, you'd have everything kind of come online and expire at the same time. But unfortunately, they're kind of all over the place. So it was a good check-in for us to make sure all of our T's were crossed and our I's were dotted as far as the several agreements that we have amongst the municipal partners. We're also working through, this was an announcement made towards the end of March, but we've got some draft updates we'd like to make to the Soloco manual. The town of Bluffton also has draft updates they would like to make. And then the experience prior has been that the engineering community felt like they didn't have enough time to provide comment. So right now, there's a 60-day public notice for open comment on the Southern Low Country Design Manual for us to consider. So the timeline would be for us to get all of those comments collated and discussed as a group in June with everyone that provided those comments, give feedback, provide drafts to you all for review and approval, and then work through the approval process so that we're going through for implementation January 1st, 2025.
This SoLoco manual, compliance manual, it's a voluntary effort if our individual towns want to adopt it. Do we have I'm sure you know off the top of your head, who has adopted it and who hasn't? Some people, I believe, have adopted it with changes.
Yes, so the manual was built so that, 95% of it is in line with everybody else. There are some nuances, for example, the charging of bonds. The county doesn't charge bonds for stormwater, but the town of Bluffton does. So there are little nuances between each of the jurisdictions in how things are actually being implemented and imposed. The only people that have not implemented that were part of the committee, the technical subcommittee, are Jasper County and the town of Hardyville, or the city of Hardyville. They have hired a new public works director, so they've been looped into the conversations again, and they seem very excited about bringing it to their leadership for approval. I wouldn't say that they're.
So all of the incorporated towns within the county have accepted the SoLoco compliance manual?
All of the towns that were on the technical subcommittee, yes.
Are there ones that weren't?
Yes.
Who are they?
The
There's
town of
only
Hilton
five,
Head.
right?
The town of Hilton Head,
The town of Hilton Head.
yes.
Do you want to speak to that at all?
Let's put somebody else on the spot.
Yeah, well,
There was some decision on the, when the whole thing started, that it might not be worth our investment in time and staff time to participate. That was an upper management decision internal to the town, that we not participate. Some personnel has changed in management at the town. We are now looking at the manual and considering at least referencing it in potential changes to our LMO. But we're not, at this point, looking at envisioning adopting it wholesale or even with changes. So there's some good information in there as far as ways that it can be used that we would like to guide our consultant community to do with their design. But the island is an island, and don't share watersheds. The challenges are different. We think on Hilton Head a little bit
okay,
than maybe on the mainland.
understand. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
Regional coordination,
Also me. So as far as Old Woodlands go, our legal is coordinating with the town of Hilton Head legal to get that drainage easement incorporated into the town's system. For Alljoy, the.
before you leave that, once that legal maneuvering is done, will that complete the Woodlands project?
No. The next phase is gonna be clearing out the drainage easement behind, oh gosh,
I don't care what.
some of the
I
roads.
don't care what
Indian
the
Trail,
name of the road-
Marblehead.
I don't
Yeah.
care what the name of the road is.
Yeah, the survey on that came back, and it's going to be very complicated due to fence lines, sheds, immovable structures being within the drainage easement. So, but it has been incorporated for the FY '25 budget.
Okay.
to clear that system out, similar to what we're doing in Shell Point.
Has that been bid out, or is that going to be bid out, or are we going to do it?
Well, more than likely it will get bid out, just because of all the trees.
It's
That's
just,
gonna
there's
be,
been I won't say inordinate, a lot of time with the people who live in that area, and it was, put on the radar screen as an issue, so
Mm-hmm.
we want to keep an eye on it for 2025 and move it along as expeditiously as possible,
yes,
legally
Yes.
possible.
those trees. Is that, you good?
Go for it.
Okay. So for Alljoy, we completed the application for the South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Grant Program. We were really grateful for all the photos that were provided to us in support of that effort. Some of the photos we found out we weren't able to submit fully, but they still have evidence from that community to support the application moving forward. As of right now, we have not heard anything back. The turnaround time for that is supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks. Again, the only thing I heard was some of the photos I couldn't forward on. And the other thing we're excited about is the application for funding through FEMA, the, believe it or not, COVID money. We've been communicating with the emergency management team in Columbia, probably weekly at this point, about amendments to our application that was submitted in February of 2022. And I'm very hopeful that that is going to be a funded venture through FEMA. So I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I do have my hopes up a little bit with that one.
So and we're talking about FEMA money for the Alljoy project.
The drainage study
The
portion.
drainage study.
Yeah, yeah.
If we get the FEMA study, does that nullify the RIA application?
In the event we were successful, the FEMA fund.
Which one comes first, the cart or the horse here?
Well, certainly RIA is going to be a much faster award. In the event we were to get both, we could use federal funding to match the RIA grant. The RIA grant is a 75-25 split. So they would fund 75% of it. We have to fund 25%. FEMA right now is 90-10. So we would only have to bring $22,700 to the table. They're going to match the other portion of it, or the rest of the $250 that we applied for. So since we initially put in our request for funds, the costs and the scope have changed to be more comprehensive, to include the DOT infrastructure, but also 2 years inflation, costs went up. So we were a little concerned that the addition of the $130,000 might be a little much, but they seem to be moving those numbers through the approval process, so.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm not quite sure my numbers, but in the 2025 budget for Alljoy study, it was something like 185,000?
It would have been 108.
108?
Mm-hmm.
So this would be more than enough money, whether we get it or not, to fund that, the initial study.
If we didn't get the funding, we could certainly do the county assets, but what we presented to EMD was that we need to do everything. Private, state, all that stuff, and RIA. RIA was presented with that too. So it would be far more comprehensive to do it that way.
It would probably make more sense and alleviate some of the miscommunications with the Alljoy residents to do a holistic study rather
Yes.
than a piecemeal.
So the good thing is, yes, we have funding, and if we needed to incorporate more, we certainly would have the opportunity, but fingers crossed. by the end of summer, we'll have a final decision.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. I kind of already talked about the Port Royal Sound Research Symposium. Again, the biggest level of effort there was just to start thinking about indicators for health of the sound. So we were split into several different think tanks, so to speak. Taylor was on the water quality think tank. I was on the land use and BMP think tank. And so our challenge was to come up with ways that we could monitor the health of a community and ecosystem through the various think tank pods. So a really productive discussion. Like I said, a lot of really influential people in the room. Spring Island Trust, Braze Island Naturalist team, our own Beaufort County team, the university, the town of Bluffton, lots of.
Are there reports being written about those? Or this is just,
That is my understanding, that there is going to be a kind of phase 1 report that comes out of what we all kind of creatively came up with, so that we can then provide comment on other things. And then
if land use, it would help, I guess, some of the other departments when they talk about building out along the rivers, all right, to see those reports to help other people if we ever do get to the point of a moratorium about building along the river.
yes, so I've actually raised my hand to do that. I kind of had expressed that the challenge will be because the Port Royal Sound extends well into Hampton County. So it's not just Beaufort and Jasper, and it's not just Beaufort County, unincorporated area. There are far more reaches of the watershed. And so I, like I said, volunteered to kind of do some research on what some of the other municipalities were implementing as far as what we found the indicators to be. So
Were there players from these other municipalities there?
I don't know that any of them were there, but they may have very well been invited and just couldn't participate. But the plan would be to certainly share it. So.
Okay.
So early days, but you got to start somewhere in these kind of long-term discussions. So like I said, it was a very productive event. The South Carolina Coastal Conservation League was there, the Sea Island, or Sea Grant was there, SCC Grant. Like I said, lots of big players. And then the last thing for regional coordination is that we're continuing to discuss with the town of Bluffton the efforts to do the baseline study on the Okatee area. So, or Okatee River, excuse me.
Okay. Any questions, gentlemen?
All right.
We now move into municipal reports.
I usually turn the floor over.
Yeah, but we only have one representative here, unfortunately, or fortunately, we have him here, or two.
Okay.
Well, we didn't submit a report for the minutes, but we've been very, very busy wrapping up the preliminary budget for fiscal '25. We're adding a little extra effort to maintenance projects, dipping into our fund balance a little bit next year. We got a lot of gates that are failing that need to be replaced. We back at full staff as of March 11th. We hired another inspector to. We're back up to 2 inspectors that work with Jacob Terry, our MPTS administrator, doing about 150 inspections a week. We've ramped up our efforts when we added single-family residential and pools last year. So we're on pace to do, upwards of 8,000 inspections this year on the island for erosion control, erosion and sediment control. So we're doing a lot better job managing our sites. We're seeing a lot of success, and we're getting buy-in from the construction community. I think we're doing a really outstanding job there. I'm very happy with that. And we're finishing wrapping up our winter inspections of all of our pump stations, trying to get them storm ready for the hurricane season. We like to do that in the winter, so we have time to react and repair and order parts, which is a big challenge these days, so. If something's wrong, you know, you might get a part in 6 months, you might get it in a year, so we get ahead of that every year. That's all I got.
Thank you, and thank you for attending. Stormwater-related projects. Ms. Brewer?
Good afternoon. First on the list is the drainage easements. We meet monthly to discuss drainage easements. The goal is for the county to have easements, official recorded easements on everything that we have been maintaining, kind of just to keep the system flowing. Complaints, we respond to numerous drainage complaints every month. Two of the big ones that we're working on, Shell Point Community, and surveying has been completed on 3 of the 8 project sections. The delineation work should be completed and submitted by very soon this week. Once our consultant is also pre-drafting all bid documentation, so as soon as the report is provided, they can finalize the mapping and bid documents. Hopefully those will be out to purchasing no later than Friday, May 3rd. Once the proposals have been provided, a contractor has been selected, we will schedule another public meeting. The first one was very successful. That's tentatively for mid-June.
Is the meeting just to give the community information of where we're at with the project?
Yes, sir, and to take any questions and answer as many as we can at the time.
Okay.
As of April 1st, the FY25 appropriations request form through Senator Lindsey Graham's office is not yet open, and there's no movement on the FEMA-funded grant request yet. But we are hopeful on that one as well. As Katie said, we have been in constant communication with them. Next on the list is the Factory Creek Watershed Detention Basin Phase 2. It's stuck in legal land still, so no update there. For on-call stormwater services from
Let's go back.
Okay.
Factory Creek. You say the attorneys are still working, our county attorneys are?
Yes, our county attorneys and the private attorneys are going back and forth on that one.
What seems to be the sticking point?
So the sticking point was the access, just like we would record any drainage easement. The sticking point has been the claim that they didn't agree to grant the drainage easement. If that were the case, we would never have expended funds because
Who didn't agree to it?
the property owner was claiming that he didn't agree to it, even though it was all explained back in 2016.
Okay.
So the most recent history has been that we're working through just the final terms of the easement agreement. So, which I guess if it's pending, I probably shouldn't say too much, but we're at 5 feet from the finish line. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Katie. For our on-call stormwater infrastructure services from JH Hires, Husband Court North, I was out there yesterday, and the ground has been very wet and soggy, and they don't want to get bogged down on top of the pipe, so they're kind of waiting for final grading until it dries out a little bit. And at that point, all that'll be left is stabilization. So we're hoping, weather permitting, a couple weeks, and we'll have that one closed out and done. Bessie's Lane, I think we marked that one off as not gonna happen, but more updates if that does continue. Seal Island Parkway, the project to the pipe drainage ditch is completed. We're gonna install a WAPRO WASTOP valve. That's a backflow prevention valve. The tides have not been appropriate during mid-April, so we're gonna schedule when we can, when the next tide is okay, because it has to stay out long enough for them to get this thing up in there and get it functional and sealed and dry. So we will see tomorrow. Bradley says tomorrow. That's exciting. News just in.
Whereabouts is that on Salem Parkway? Because I can't remember offhand.
You know where the Sandler Brothers cooling house is, the back of the shed, the newest one kind of across from the Exxon station?
Yes.
That easement right along there.
Okay, I got you. I know where you're at. Thank you.
That ditch, when they widened 21, that, the reason we put that project in order is that when they widened 21, it had a lot more drainage to that one ditch, and it really eroded that ditch. Really bad was eroding into their property, so we tried to patch it up, but just couldn't keep it, so we ended up piping it in to keep that going.
Okay, thanks, Brad. That's all.
Okay.
I'm good.
For Tuxedo Park, they had a meeting yesterday with the HOA and county staff to make a plan going forward. It's not going to be a very pretty process. The end will be pretty, but there will be lots of drying out, possibly for months of emptiness, if I understand. So they just wanted to meet with the HOA to kind of let them know, yes, we are going to get to your final project point, but there's going to be some ugly, not so prettiness going through it, and we wanted to go ahead and cut off any kind of questions or complaints by addressing that in the front end and just kind of letting them know what the process is going to be. For Arthur
And they're
Horn,
okay with that?
I have not,
TBD.
I was not at that meeting and I've not heard. But I can update you as we go forward.
Okay, please.
The Arthur Horn Park, we got an email back from Miss Rachel Wilden with the NRCS, and she said the PIFR has been sent to the watershed branch for review. Once they review it and approve it, it will be sent to funding for the planning phase. Typically, that process takes 6 to 12 weeks to hear back on the review, but hopefully sooner. So once again, another project that we've been working on for a very long time, but are very hopeful that we are getting very close to the starting line. For professional contracts, Brewer Memorial, we're gonna have an open house, hopefully, I'm thinking in the fall, to showcase our wonderful B&Ps that we have going on there. It's a beautiful area, and we did put a lot of work into it, and it's functioning very well, so I think that we should explain it to the public and open it up to let them know what possibilities are out there.
It's possible that we can put that on our agenda for a field trip.
Okay, I would love that.
We could have a meeting and then the public's automatically invited.
We could do that. Thank you for that suggestion. For the St. Helena drainage study, we received the final report and we're initiating work on the first half of the proposed improvements. For Northern Ladies Island, we returned our suggestions and requested an executive summary of the improvements that they're proposed, and we should be getting that back from Wolpert any day. The other two are ongoing. So Rivers End, water quality improvements. They've gotten the report back to us. We're gonna analyze it, look at it, ask any questions and give any comments back by the end of next week for that project. Tax run will be starting up soon. I know we just finished the last one, but apparently it'll be starting up soon. It's almost like a year-round thing. So once again, Wolpert will be handling that task order for us. On our website, we now have a new video that Juliana Hunter did for us. It walks people through the compliance calculator. This saves me personally a lot of time. It's helpful to developers and people in the construction community. And if you have any free time and would love to go and learn about all the different load reductions and volume reductions and things, it's definitely technical, but the video has been fantastic. So it's working.
Where is that located?
On the stormwater page, it's actually right under where the link is to the compliance calculator. So it's very easy to find. The last one we kind of touched on, but we did put in the budget for an additional continuous monitoring station for fiscal year 25. And we are working with USCB, DNR, and the Port Royal Sound Foundation to figure out what the best placement for that monitoring station is, so that as all of these entities put in their own stations, we all kind of work together to cover the county as best we can and have them spread out and also in areas of biggest concern. The scopes on the county and Wolpert radar are a stormwater management plan update for DHEC and a 5-year stormwater utility fee assessment deep dive, which we've talked about. in extent today. Anybody have any questions
It
about
seems
that?
It appears just from this that Wolpert has a lion's share of our consulting business.
They were-
For stormwater, yes, sir, they're our on-call.
What's that mean on call?
That was a big chunk of the budget for 25, wasn't it, Katie?
Yes.
For their consulting, yeah.
Are we finding them responsive?
Yes, we are, and I think that's why we continue to use them as our on-call, because they have been so fantastic. And they have an extensive history of data for Beaufort County, so that's also nice as well. But we do reevaluate. Their contract will be coming up for bid next year, so we always do a comprehensive evaluation to make sure that they are providing the best services for what we're paying.
Good. Okay, MS4?
Yes, Ms. Daphne, if you'll pull up the plan review chart. So just recently, in March, I took over plan review with still a very heavy influence and oversight from Ms. Juliana Hunter, who used to do our plan review and now works for Wolpert. And plan review is a beast, let me say that. But it's.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? It went kind of fast.
Yes, I apologize. I recently took over, so we had contracted Wolpert to do plan review in the time that we did not have someone in my position. So while I came in, we let them finish up their plan review contract, and then I took over plan review in early March. But still with heavy oversight and questions and comments from Ms. Juliana Hunter to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. It's going about the same, though. As you can see, the numbers are pretty steady. Development had, I think between August, September, and October, we had a big influx of projects coming in. I'm not sure why that timing happened like that, but we had a lot of bigger projects come in, and it's kind of in a lull right now. Monthly inspections, we're chugging along. We did have some interesting violations this month with some developers, but we caught the problems early and are addressing them before there were any effects on citizens. So I do think that that means that our inspections program is effective.
Do those enforcement actions come with fines?
They can, yes, sir.
Did they? Were there any repeat offenders, recidivism?
What we found most effective is a stop work order. These developers, our fines are not stiff enough to have them blink an eye at. So a stop work order most of the time is more effective because that puts them behind timeline to whoever they're reporting to, and it costs them money daily when they're not able to work. So, but we have not had any stop work orders issued recently. So for public education, we have the report attached from Ellen, and we're chugging right along on that. We have our annual report due to DHEC, and she submitted the public education portion to us for review, and we got back to her with comments, and she finalized that for us. And then I will be submitting our annual report before the end of April to DHEC.
So could you explain enforcement actions on this chart? What are they?
So construction sites, if their silt fence has gone down and they're having sedimentation off-site, or if they don't have correct inlet protection or things like that, depending on the severity, they can be issued a notice of violation, basically letting them know that when the inspector was out there, they were not up to code, and then they have a certain amount of days to come back into compliance before escalated enforcement.
Okay.
I mean, I see a lot in the county in my own area that the inlet protection gets clogged. So the answer is to remove it. And then you've defeated, because then you have another storm, or it's in the middle of a storm and it's already clogged. So it's a circle of the residue that you're trying to trap goes directly into the stormwater drainage system.
Correct, and inlet protection is, I do feel, one of the BMPs that does require more regular maintenance. It's supposed to not be butted up right against the inlet. They're supposed to be wood or bricks or something holding it back a little bit so that in large storm events, the water can overtop, but it still does allow it to function on a day-to-day basis. So I appreciate that comment, and we will
My thing
look
is,
specifically.
is with all those enforcement actions, that you don't have a stop work order over the same construction companies over and over again. You know, recidivism, you know, should have a bigger hammer.
I do agree, and I don't think these numbers accurately represent the number of projects that we have. So these might not be repeat offenders, they might be for violations for different projects, different developers. So, but we do have a list of, if you will, trouble children that we keep a closer eye on than most.
Good.
And we do take complaints via BC Connect, and we respond to those as well for construction complaints. Okay. The MS4 statewide general permit. I've heard that we are very close to getting a new one despite DHEC's split. If you're not aware, DHEC is going to be splitting, and as of July 1, they're going to be two completely separate entities. Our MS4 permit will fall under the Department of Environmental Services. So we are due for a new permit 4 years ago, and I hope that we will get one soon, from what I've heard.
So the very first report that we still haven't heard anything back from the submission.
No.
I would think that we'd write a letter to the governor, that the county would write a letter to the governors saying that after 4 years that, you know, we've got this MS4 requirement that we've complied with and have not gotten any. I would send that to the county attorney or at least to counsel, to the county attorney. It's somewhat disingenuous of the county not to respond after 4 years of submitting reports that they mandated.
Good idea.
I agree.
I mean, if we sit here and don't do anything, it'll be 5 years or 6 years, and we still haven't heard whether they like the first one we sent.
And how much time and effort is spent on those reports?
We get them done per requirement, but we do not expend massive effort on it.
Why should you, right? Because nobody's paying attention.
Well, pretty much it's just, I mean, we have our records in order, so it's just sending them our records and what we've done for the past year, what we've,
It still takes time.
But the whole.
it does still take time, yes,
The whole
sir.
MS4 program commits a lot of resources, whether it's ours or the incorporated towns. We expend an inordinate amount of resources to the MS commitment. There was no commitment before about education. So all of the efforts that we put in are basically part of that report. And that's not negligible.
I agree.
Collating it might be negligible, but not the actual work.
I agree. And on a different permit, the EPA has provided comments on DOT's new permit, so they did get a new permit. So maybe we're next.
Okay.
We can be hopeful. For staff updates, we have a new environmental educator person. We have offered the position to a very passionate and qualified applicant that we were all very excited about, and she has accepted. She is a young lady, and I think she's going to do wonders for our program. She's going to breathe some life and vigor. She knows how to work social media and do all of the things that Katie and I don't have time to do, telling everybody what we've done. So we have a lot of exciting projects in our mind, one being a frontward-facing update to the public instantaneously, hopefully, of maybe we have proposed different ways of showing our work, but linear feet of ditches cleaned out or things like that that we can show what we're doing, because I think there's a lot more that we're doing that doesn't get shown.
When
So
does that,
that's-
when does that person come on board?
I believe I heard May 2nd, or the week of May 2nd. May 6th, maybe, yes. And then also, Mr. Mark Johnson has been hired as the new project manager for Public Works. He's back there, say hi, Mr. Mark. He comes with many years of experience. He was most recently the vice
Welcome.
president of SESWA, and he's, SCASM, sorry, wrong organization. Past president, not vice president of SCASM. And so we appreciate all of the knowledge that he's gonna bring to Public Works. He's already rolled up his sleeves, and we were in a meeting the other day, and I think he got like 20 project assignments that day. So he's been in it, and I'm sure that he'll be there to answer any questions that y'all may have on any internal projects that we have going on.
Since we have a new educational person that's funded starting the first week in May, when does the contract with Clemson University for education end?
We are hoping to phase that out. Right now, we're gonna keep them on just to make sure that we don't have any lapses in our permit requirements. We're hoping by fiscal year '26 to have absolved that contract.
Well, that would need to be considered by all the
Yes,
municipalities that
sir.
are participating in the cost share.
Absolutely.
There's a lot that would need to be thought through.
Which is why we weren't making any hasty decisions, and we have brought it up to the SWIC
and
members.
discussed.
And it's been discussed, and we will stay in constant contact with them as we move through the process. The idea is to see if this person can capably handle everything that they're given without having any lapse in permit requirements. They'll be doing about half stormwater and half solid waste, public education and outreach.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Carter? Good afternoon, Mr. Carter. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good afternoon, everyone. How y'all doing?
Good.
Stephen Carter, Stormwater Superintendent. I want to talk to you all about a couple of our major projects that Stormwater Division has done. I'm not going to go through all of them. You all have the packets. The first one I want to talk about is the Paris Island reimbursement. The Paris Island reimbursement, the scope of work included installing 300 linear feet of riprap and hydro seeding for erosion control, and the total cost of that project was $62,115. As you can see, on the minor projects, I'm gonna skip to cover one of the minor projects. And that one is Harrison Island Road. And on Harrison Island Road, the scope of work that Stormwater performed, this project improved 2,670 linear feet of drainage system. The scope of work also included cleaning out 2,600 linear feet of roadside ditch, and the total cost of that project was $13,322. That's just a few of the projects in the packet. I have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Stephen.
Yes, sir.
Y'all bring us a great report and great pictures every meeting. I think the public wants to know, how do you decide which ones that you're going to do day, month, week? Who sets up that project list for you? Is it done at the beginning of the year? Do special events happen, complaints that trigger you to go out and do one? How does that work in your organization?
Well, I work, me and my foreman come together. Majority of the work comes through Beaufort County, the BC Connect app. Also, I know Bradley Harriet, he gets a majority of the complaints as well, and then me and him sit down and go through the major projects that need to be handled immediately. I know we were just down in the Alljoy area handling that as well, and that was top priority. So we go by the priority of the complaints that we need to handle.
So in January, you don't have, we're gonna do this in January and this in March. You don't have a by-month plan. You just wait till the complaint
Yes,
comes in?
yes, sir. Well, we start off with the first complaint and say it's January, and depending on the time limit of how long it takes us, then once I get with Bradley, then we say, well, we can schedule this 2 or 3 weeks from now, so it may be February when we're able to get to this next project, depending on the weather and if the equipment goes down and how many staff we have for that project as well. See, right now, we also a little short-staffed as well, and then I have to have my assistant superintendent take over for May 1st due to the fact I will be out again for shoulder surgery.
But there is no, I guess there is no way to have at least a preliminary, long-term plan. And let's just say, for instance, okay, we'll use Alljoy as an example, say that we're gonna clean out a ditch on a particular road, a county road. While the inspectors are out doing the things that they do, could they not come back and go, you know, this ditch looks pretty good and it may not need regularly maintained maintenance at this point. Let's push it off to another year.
Yes, sir.
Or 6
Yes,
months down the
yes, sir.
road.
That has happened as well.
Okay.
When the inspectors go out. Also, again, I say my foreman go out and may inspect the complaint, and the ditch may be one certain area where the complaint came in and not the entire, whether it be a subdivision or just the roadside. So we may have to just clean the one spot where the complaint is, and then the other area may not be as bad as the complaint is. So we may not have to go into that area until probably 6 months down the line.
I guess what we're asking is better utilization of manpower and equipment. That if you were thinking first quarter, we're gonna do this, second quarter, third quarter.
Right.
Instead of waiting for the calls to come in, have it in the back of your head, working with the team. This is what we see. This is something we can wait till September to do. This is something we need to do now. So it's a better utilization of.
Yes, sir.
Of manpower and equipment, and if you know someone's gonna be out for surgery or
Yes,
vacation,
sir.
then you can say, well, wait a minute, we're short-staffed here in April, and, we can move it out. So it's just better planning.
Yes, sir. And I'll get with my inspectors with that. I know we do have like a 5-year routine maintenance
Right.
on certain things, so there are some projects that are planned months in advance.
And that information, I guess that's not really published anywhere, is it, for the community to see, so that, I'm trying to look outside the box here. You know, if
Yes,
you've
sir.
got a community that's having problems with flooding issues, where hopefully our environmental educational person or whomever could go out and go, listen, if you have questions about ditches in your neighborhood, go to this website and look and see when it's scheduled to be cleaned. That
Yes.
way, it might cut down on more phone calls, more Beaufort Connects that, were
Yes,
sent
sir.
out and immediately denied or not responded to or missed. But that way, the public could be a little bit more interactive of what the county is doing to maybe cut down on their frustration and to cut down on your frustration to have to deal with all these emergency
Yes, sir.
calls all the time. It's just a thought.
Yes, sir. I'm not
I get it.
sure or aware if we have anything, a program like that to where the citizens can go and see if we have anything planned out with months in advance.
Maybe the staff that's here can take that as a suggestion, and at the next meeting, tell us how we could look at a schedule of planning out by quarter, not by month, we'll go by quarter to start some of these projects that are popping their ugly heads up.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that'd be something we can get in, speak with our educator about, so we can implement that into our program.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Any other
Mr.
questions?
Carter. Thank you.
I'll follow up just a little bit behind Stephen Carter, so, in there,
Come on up.
yeah, so what they,
Hold up so we can get you on camera.
so to follow behind Stephen Carter's report there a little bit, so the way they schedule stuff is if you go on their whiteboard in their meeting room, they've probably got, right now, there's probably between 3 and 5 months of work on the on the board.
Yes.
That's already scheduled out with dates, locate tickets, the whole night, that's already scheduled out. So there's not really I don't know if there's a way to, I guess there would be a way to put it out publicly. Probably could, some of that I think we
It would
would
be a
get.
spreadsheet. as simple as a
It could be,
spreadsheet.
so they do it out, a lot of times we run into on those issues as well. And it's really hard to, we might have it all planned out, and then the tides get big, we have big tides, so that'll cancel that week's work, a lot of times, it'll cancel that week's work. And then that's when we get the calls, why didn't y'all show up, well, then we have to explain because of tides and, because it's hard to base all your projects around a lot of the tides. So, but they do plan out a lot of stuff 3 to 5 months in advance, and it's probably a good idea that we can get it out publicly, so maybe that people can, the public can see that we do have those things planned.
And I get what you're saying, because tides do play a big part of what goes on in the county, but, if you have something that's scheduled, let's just say, we know, everybody who lives in the county, most everybody does, at least anybody that throws a line in the water, knows when the king tides are.
Sure.
You could always put an asterisk on the bottom of that spreadsheet, say this is tentative date, depending on tides.
And do it quarterly, you wouldn't have to be held to a week.
Well, that's why I
That's
said
it.
quarterly is.
Yeah.
It gives you a broader scope to,
I think we're in an era now where the county is continuing to grow by leaps and bounds. And looking at the size of the Public Works Department and the umbrellas, everything that's under that umbrella, it's gonna be monumental. Because number one, Mr. Carter just said, he's having problems hiring people to go do these jobs. We've got the contract, all this stuff. Where's all the money gonna come from? Blah, blah, blah. It's endless. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. But it'd be better to try and grab a hold of it now, have something in place, so as we grow, we might be able to catch up a little bit better than being caught with our pants down here in a year or 2 years from now when the population grows by 50 million or whatever it's gonna be, who knows?
Sure.
But it's just a thought, just gotta think beyond, it's like, I use this term almost ridiculously, it's a paradigm shift. We've always done it this way. We've always done it this way. It's a great time to step back and go, we need to do it another way because the tide is coming, and I don't mean to use that as a pun.
Sure.
But it may be something we can look into, and whatever we can do to help y'all with
Yep.
that, we'll try
Thank
that.
The more knowledge we can give the public, the better off we look, you look.
It's better.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, President.
Unfortunately, Mrs. Howard is unable to meet with us today to give us a report. We'd like to thank Ms. Paula Brown, who is in attendance from County Council. We were not expecting a report. We're just glad she's in attendance. Unfinished business, Ms. Herrera, I don't know why. I think it may be just a mistake about consolidation. Keeps popping up. I think we can remove that item.
I agree.
So noted.
Unless you're gonna be on both boards.
No comment. At this time.
I don't wanna go there.
We'll move into new business. All right. Mr. Ross?
Sure. If the storm that we had last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, obviously we had a lot of flood damage. This isn't even a hurricane season. This was just something that dropped, what was it, 3/4 of an inch to maybe an inch of rain within an 8-hour period. It was a bunch of water.
4 inches in some places.
4.8 inches.
I don't
in 10
doubt
hours.
it. I don't doubt it. It was a bunch, and I know that everybody's, I know Mr. Carter and his group is sitting there just looking at the range maps going, God, man, it's just one of these things that just turns into a big mess. These pictures that I got were from Ms. Taylor. She had initially emailed out to myself and Taylor and Mark and a few others that were on there as well. And this came into response because she had put out there publicly that she was quite frustrated about this issue in these neighborhood. And I wanted to be able to show everybody these, and you can just kind of scroll through them, Daphne, but these are all within that Forest Fields area. And if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of it's in the it's in the Shell Point area, just west of Paris Island Gateway before you get up to Trask Parkway, I think. I can't remember the one where the big mall's going up. In any event, this isn't a natural river. This is all flooding, and obviously, it's like, to use the term Katie used earlier, all the big brain people are, the folks that are in these positions. I'm just a knucklehead that decided to raise my hand and serve. But you look at a lot of this stuff, and it makes you think. There's been a lot of construction, a lot of development that has come to the county over the years. And I'm not a rocket scientist. I mean, people who've dealt with me know this stuff, but when you keep filling areas with concrete and building up areas and changing elevations from what God intended, that water's got to go somewhere. And again, I'm not a genius, but water does seek its lowest level, and unfortunately it's going to these places. We've had issues in Alljoy neighborhood, right? We've had issues in the Shell Point, where luckily we had a grant that the Stormwater group was able to get funding for it. Now they're able to come out with public meetings to help get these folks that live in these communities that are literally underwater, to explain to them that, you got a complaint today, we're not going to fix it tomorrow, because, yep, it's the government, and yep, it's a process, and it takes a long time. It's frustrating for the people that live in these areas. Same thing with Forest Field that Ms. Taylor brought up. Same thing with Tuxedo Park. Same thing with Old Woodlands. And we're going to start seeing more and more and more of these communities coming here and saying, what the heck is going on? They need help. They need relief. They need transparency in the government of what we're trying to do to help them. I will say this, hats off to Taylor, from Ms. Taylor, from within, I don't even think it was a day, you responded and said, yep, it's a Shell Point problem, I've contacted. Hats off. Unfortunately, it still falls upon the county to back up a lot of this stuff. I don't know, I haven't seen Van at a meeting in a year, so I don't even know what his status is as far as doing this. I know you talked to the folks that were responsible for that, and hats off to you for doing that and quickly responding. But I think we're going to see more and more of these incidents, if we haven't seen enough already, about these folks that are just dying for information, which is why we talked about the calendar of when the blowouts of the ditches are going to be. I think it's very important. I'm so grateful we're going to get environmental educator that's going to be able to come out. And just like you had mentioned, Kay, she's going to be able to master the social media stuff to get information out to these folks and say, here's what we're doing. The process, like in Alljoy, for heaven's sake. I've been trying to get an answer to this for the bike path that they want to grow in there. It's a simple question. Is it going to be a pervious or impervious substance? Well, nobody knows because it's still being planned. Well, it doesn't take a brilliant guy, again, to go, why would we want to put concrete down there in that water that's already draining out into the May River? But it's things like that that hopefully the Stormwater group will be able to answer in some way, shape, or fashion, whether it's public meetings with these communities. I get it. You guys work your tails off now as it is. But to be able to reach out to these communities to say, explain to them, this is the process of what we're trying to do and how we want to fix it. I think that'll reap benefits tenfold over a period of time. And again, as the county continues to grow, there's going to be more and more and more people that are going to have issues with stormwater backing up. That's all I had to say for new business. I certainly hope that we can look at it as a utility to, like I said, move forward, change the way we do things, offer more information to the people in the community to help them better understand why 5 years ago they didn't have standing water in their yard after a rainstorm, and now they can sail paper boats on their walkway and sit there and go, well, that never happened before. Why is it happening now? And hopefully we can help these folks out, because after all, they're the ones that pay the salaries. That's all I have. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Dennis. I'd like to reiterate that the problem we seem to have goes back in an educator person, communications person will definitely improve. We have a certain amount of incorporated towns, and then we have unincorporated areas, but all of it remains in the county. It all falls within the county of Beaufort, and people don't really understand that we have the town of Hilton Head, we have the town of Port Royal, and there's some, dividing and some unifying pieces to those puzzles. And again, Taylor, thank you for reaching out to the people in Port Royal as expeditiously as possible, because the community just sees us as the county, and they don't see it as a separate entity that we say that we don't have, it's hands off for us and it's their responsibility. The public just says we pay taxes, and we pay a lot of taxes. And they say, we want something for our taxes, as Dennis said, what are we getting for it? And again, I'll use All Joy as an example. I'd say a year ago, nobody was really, I won't say they weren't interested, but it hadn't come to the level that it has arisen to as listening to the people and taking action. And Ms. Taylor, hopefully the county and Port Royal will take up your situation, and whether it takes them getting a grant or for them saying we need county help. We always go back when we need help to a higher authority, we go to the state. So hopefully the incorporated towns, and I guess like Dennis, I'm on the soapbox, reach out to the county, and the county to the state, and the state to the feds for whatever requirements or whatever we need for resources to fix problems. And that's what we're here to vocalize your issues to the county. And that's why we're here. Otherwise, there would not be a utility board. So with that, I would ask, is there any other new business?
Can I add one other thing? And I'm not sure if this is possible, and I'm sure whoever's familiar with all of Robert's Rules of Orders will let me know. The pictures that I forwarded to Daphne from the Forest Field area is just, and obviously the email package that she gave us, is there a way that could almost be entered into? I mean, it's a public meeting, public record, so that it is in there, that if this ever rears its head up again, Ms. Taylor doesn't have to come back here and go, I wrote you guys 2 years ago, what happened? So at least that it's been documented that this issue has been made, much like we've done with the folks of Alljoy and Shell Point and Old Woodlands and all the others. Can we do that? Is that okay? All right, thank you.
Any other new business? I have one piece of new business. For the record, I would like to acknowledge the support and work over the past several years by Neil Desai. Neil has accepted a new position with the Beaufort-Jasper County Water and Sewer Authority. Neil was formerly the store manager for the town of Beaufort, and before that, the stormwater manager for the city of Charleston. The Beaufort County Stormwater Utility Board will miss Neil's expertise and assistance over the years. Thank you. I get to open it up for public comment again. Is there any other people from the public that would make a comment?
I'm sorry. Jennifer Taylor from Taylor Gentle Homes. I just want to put it on record that we are not Port Royal. We are unincorporated Beaufort County. The only picture on there that pertains to Port Royal are those wonderful new apartments on Grober Hill that are flooding our property that's unincorporated Beaufort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff is taking appropriate notes. Before we go to the approving the next meetings, yes, ma'am? I did open it for public comment, no more than 3 minutes. You may step forward.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Laura Wilson. I live in unincorporated Beaufort County, Alljoy area. And once again, I just want to thank this board for the recognition and the help that we've received thus far with Alljoy. We have for many, many years, dealt with and expressed help and need with our stormwater and our need for affordable sewer. A couple things. I'm sorry that Mr. Mitchell isn't here. He was at the last meeting that I was at February 14th. And at the end of at the meeting, you know, he just expressed a kindness of just, you know, dealing with some of the frustration because, you know, of what we see and what we deal with on, you know, a regular basis. Like one of our folks, Jim Lawton, when he was here in December, he said, you know, he had been working since 1994. And he said, you know, I don't think it's an engineering impossibility to have water flow. And it's still work, because I did see an email come through before coming here on Oyster that it's still not done. They're still having issues with it. And so there's a couple of things. And one thing that I was really grateful for Mr. Mitchell, not only his act of kindness, but he asked openly, hey, when is the last time that there was a public stormwater meeting to be able to update and provide information to the Alljoy area? And so that was something that he talked with Taylor and it was addressed. And so we were kind of excited to hear and thinking something was going to come up. And I mean, it's been 62 days since that last meeting. And so finally, we did send a note. It was dated on the 11th that the Alljoy community requests a public stormwater meeting. And for the reason, and a lot of folks usually have things at the rec center for a public meeting, and yet I've never received a response for that. So we would like to see if that could be please addressed. And then that way we can have folks, we would love to have Mrs. Brewer out to speak with us. I mean, we loved when she first came on, she did this wonderful video stating, you know, you don't want you don't want impervious surfaces. Concrete is a no-no. That's why, you know, we're perplexed why we got voted down. I mean, the whole rec center was loud and said we don't want this, and yet Eric Greenway and our District 9 rep flipped it around to have it in. So we would like a public stormwater meeting, please, in that area, in our area for updates. The last one was August 3rd, 2021. It's been a minute. So also, I wanted to also mention in regards, now with work orders, and I know Mr. Williams got up and spoke prior, when we came to our the meeting in December 12th, actually we got a stormwater maintenance schedule an hour and a half before we arrived, and it was for Alljoy to get some stuff done.
You are very close. You're very close to your limit of time.
Okay, so what I was going to say is that it's actually, Mr. Carter and his crew do a great job. They don't have the equipment in the county, and it would probably be good to be bid out because there's certain things to flush out the pipes, to do the ditches. I mean, right now they're cutting down trees and grass and stuff like that, which is all good. I mean, the county, when they started to like sweep our streets, we're like, you know, holding our heads because it's like, no, there's so much on the jets and everything, the culverts. It's still, we're overflowing. So that's where the help is needed. And, you know, I happened to look, and I'll say this real quick. I was hoping that Ms. Howard was here because I happened to look over an article previously with what she has done, you know, with the District 4 rep and all that was accomplished with Shell Point. And it's the same type of makeup of what our community looks like too. And yet it got done. I mean, it just pushed through, and communication and public meetings and doing it and grants. And I recently was addressed shortly ago by a previous Beaufort County employee that said, you know, Laura, they have this money. They have this money for the survey. The survey should have been done years ago. They don't want to do it. And the bottom line is you got to stop and think action speaks louder than words. And I know that I had pushed for 3 months for the SCRIA grant, and we had provided that and told it was not available because it was a tier 1. We've sent photos in. We have over 200 photos. But, you know, we just don't hear back. We don't get acknowledged. We want to help. We want to do. But yet, you know, it seems to be the same thing. It's just we get told things, and year after year after year. And that's kind of why this group, Preserve and Protect Alljoy, came about. It's because there is another group in Alljoy that's true, but they want to do beach renourishment, and they purchased a house which they're going to sell. You know, we have people that can't flush their toilets. You know, we're so saturated with stormwater. We need drained. We need drained. So that's it, and I thank you again. I thank you all. And please mention to Patrick, I really thank him for his kindness. He was dear. And if we could get that on the schedule. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. The last piece of business, before we look at the next meeting agenda, gentlemen, it's come to light that our meetings for the rest of the year are scheduled to have one back-to-back. This is April. On the overall calendar, it's calling for a May, July, September, November timeframe. I would hasten to say that it may be much more beneficial for us to move to a June, August, October, December meeting schedule, which would not cause 2 months before we meet into 2025. And I would accept a motion to move from May 15th of our next meeting to June 19th, from July 17th to August 21st, September 18th to October 16th, and November 20th to December 18th.
I'll make the motion. I don't have my calendar, but I think I'm pretty flexible.
Is there anyone who hasn't?
I didn't write quick enough. Could you?
I'll give these to everybody in
All
an
right.
email.
Okay.
But what it does is, and I understand why the stormwater management thought that we needed these back-to-back meetings because of the early fiscal year that doesn't match anybody else's, but comes in August and September of 2024. The council looks at our budget for 2025, their budget for 2025, which we have already recommended approval. The idea was if the council rejects our recommendation and management's proposal, it would come back to us for another recommendation to say we approve
A redo.
a redo, which is, I think, kind of ridiculous because we've already said we like what has been proposed and we're recommending it. So I think coming back to us is superfluous from my point of view. I'd like any comment on that before we take it to a vote.
Is there anything from y'all's group as to that organization? Do you have something special in there?
So as of right now, our FY25 budget is entered into our budgetary software central budget. That's gone through the initial approvals through our assistant county administrator as well as the finance department. Hats off to our team. We did an incredible job putting that together, and thus far there are no major amendments or even minor amendments made to the proposed budget. Now, once it leaves, it goes through the approval process with council, I believe, later this month. I don't foresee any changes being made, but again, that's kind of at council's discretion. It has happened 2 years ago where they made amendments to our budget and we had to scramble to get a meeting scheduled to represent those changes to make you all aware of that. So that was the thought process behind having the May meeting, is it's already on the books. But again, if y'all would like to change it, certainly that's something we're happy to accommodate.
If we change it and then we have a hiccup down the road, we could always call an emergency meeting.
We've done that in the past, or we can do it electronically.
Right. Sure. I mean, there are options for us. It's not.
Yeah, that's, yep, totally true. Y'all can call a meeting at any time, really. as long as we can accommodate the space and the public notice procedures.
Right, I would like to just keep it as flexible as possible. I mean, nobody knows what council is gonna do in any given second week of the month or fourth week of the month, whenever they meet. If they decide to reject it, then we could obviously have a Zoom call or something along those lines, or if the facilities were available, do it in the executive conference room. Whatever needed to be done, we could do, hopefully just enough to have a quorum. But if not, we could just, omni and send it on to, the powers
Yeah.
that be, and then just go into June. I don't have a problem with that.
I'll be out next month, so y'all get with Taylor if you need anything fast.
I'm sure between Taylor and myself, we can get the communication out. And that's if there's a hiccup at the board level, which we don't expect.
No, no.
So I think our
I don't have
budget.
a problem with that.
So,
I'll second that motion.
all right, so I have a motion to move. I'll repeat it. The Stormwater Utility Board's meetings to every other month, which would mean we would meet on June 19th, August 21st, October 16th, and December 18th of 2024.
You all right, then?
I got my leg steel trap. He's gonna say that name.
Can I just interject that the late December, we try and do it on the second Wednesday just because of the conflict?
Oh,
And
the
technically,
Christmas party.
probably the second Tuesday because of,
That wouldn't be a problem, I think.
okay. You get into Christmas time and all that.
Why would we, if we move, why would we move it to a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday? Is there a holiday problem?
There typically is an event that the Public Works Department hosts on the second Wednesday of December. So either way, it's totally fine, but we'll accommodate accordingly. But
We
that
could
was
move it a
just,
week up and keep it Wednesday, or we could move it to Tuesday. I don't care.
It makes no difference.
Well, obviously, it does make a difference when we keep it on Wednesdays, the third Wednesday, right? These chairs are filled. We've moved it to a Tuesday, and look around at the empty chairs. That should be, and the same time, when we moved it before, we had very little participation. And we have never, ever missed a meeting for lack of a quorum in the 10 years I've been on Stormwater.
Well, let's move it up a week then.
I would move it up a week, which would make it the 11th.
okay. And then what we'll do, once you provide your recommendation for amending the schedule, is just confirm with boards and commissions that there's no conflicts on those dates, times, and location. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Could we use an alternate location? Does it have to be
Well,
here?
we have used the executive conference room when I came here for years, and for some reason, they have a lunch meeting that extends later.
Agenda review for Public Facilities Committee on Monday. They've taken over because, yeah, we got pulled off. It changed because of COVID, so.
COVID's over.
Well, they still meet now on those Wednesdays in there, so.
It's a very tight room.
Yeah, exactly, this is much better space. So if there's no conflicts, we have a motion to move those dates. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
With no opposition, we will propose those dates to boards and commissions for changes. As soon as we can get that approved, Katie, I'd like to send that announcement to all the members. In your packet, you have a proposed agenda for the next meeting, which is subject to change. The major change will be the date. Do I have a motion to approve that agenda at this time?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
And it's all day.
Yes. The next meeting agenda with the date change is approved. One last time, any other people from the public would like to make any comments? I thank everybody for attending. Meeting adjourned.